Welcome to the Bleadership podcast by the real Dwight Thomas, where Black culture and Black professionalism meet. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button for more episodes like this. Let's get into it. So I don't know if y'all have seen the recent press release of Aunty Kamala and Joe Biden talking about the fires that are happening in California. And in that clip, you see Joe Biden make a terrible reference about the fires to Aunty Kamala while saying that he knows that she was impacted by the fires. So he literally says, I know that Madam Vice President has been directly impacted by the fires, so I'm going to let her talk about this. Fire away, Madam Vice President. Where is that a good joke? And then he says, no pun intended. Where is that a good joke? And the thing is that not only is it a horrible, insensitive joke, but you're literally the president of the United States. While there's a wildfire going on in California and you're making jokes about firing away to Madam Vice President. Like, at what point do we say that this whole thing is just weird? And I feel like for her, it's like, when do we give her a break? I feel like she cannot, Madam Vice President literally hasn't gotten a break. And what's crazy about this is that that's literally what we experience on a day-to-day in the Black professional world. Is like every day is something new that we have to face. People making insensitive jokes, people talking to us in a manner that is crazy. And then what's wild is that in every instance, you see her have to smile and nod, because if she responds the way she wants to, she's going to be an aggressive Black woman. And honestly, in that moment, for her to smile and nod when someone makes a joke about a fire that has directly impacted you must be impossible. And we've watched her have to do this throughout the entire election. People will say insensitive things about her. They have questioned her identity. They have talked about her in ways that are derogatory. And because she's sitting in a position of power, she has to smile and nod. And what sucks is that is what Black people have to endure every day in the workplace. And obviously, we can't compare to what she's going through because she's Madam Vice President. So she's on a much bigger platform than what we have. But this is the constant battle that Black people face in the workplace. People, and if y'all watched the clip the other day of the former President Carter, his funeral, and she gave that bombastic side eye to former President Obama because he was back there kikiing with Donald Trump. She literally gave him the side eye because it's like, for you to sit here and to act like you're so against Donald Trump and his rhetoric and all that stuff. And this is what I'm talking about with respectability politics. I know everyone loves Obama, and I can understand why, but at the same time, he plays a hell of a respectability politic, and you have to be the president. So it's like two things can be true at once, right? It's like you obviously have to do that to be the president, but also I can't get behind the fact that you were sitting up there laughing on camera with Trump. And if I were Aunty Kamala, I would have given the aggressive side eye as well. And what's even more interesting about the whole thing is that Barack Obama is half white. And I want to say that nobody questioned his identity until Donald Trump came out asking to see if he was a citizen, which is dumb because obviously he's from Hawaii. But in the race, this last presidential race, Aunty Kamala, who has two Black parents, was questioned nonstop about her identity. And I just think that that's weird. And I hate to be the one to say that Obama really was suckling. Never mind, too soon. But I truly believe that there's a difference between code switching So code switching is something that we've all been taught to do as Black people as a survival skill, right? So there's code switching. Code switching absolutely exists, and I don't believe that code switching is something I don't necessarily I don't like to downplay Black people for code switching. There's a difference between code switching and laughing in the face of an oppressor, right? You can code switch, and we've been taught that because we have to. That doesn't mean that you have to sit down with President Donald Trump or whatever incoming president, former president, and smile and show all 32. That's not something we do. So yes, we code switch as a survival method, and I think that as the world is evolving, I'm hoping that we have to do that less and less. But that has nothing to do with you sitting next to him at a funeral and making jokes and laughing and showing all 32 with that man. There's a significant difference, right? And so, especially when Auntie Kamala was sitting right there, if I don't know if y'all ever been in a space, and I'm saying this as somebody Black, and I'm sure we can all relate, where you've walked into a space where you see that there's a majority of white people. The first thing I do is find somebody Black that I know every single time. The first thing I do when I walk into a space that I know the majority of the people don't look like me, I go find someone who looks just like me that I know that I can sit with. And I'm not saying that all skin folk is kinfolk, but what I'm saying is in that moment, I would have found my way to Auntie Kamala and I would have plopped my Black ass right down next to her and we would have been chopping it up and kikiing. Nobody would have ever caught me sitting next to President Trump laughing. And even if the funerals are assigned seating, he's Barack Obama. I would absolutely cause a scene because y'all are not going to force me to sit next to somebody like Trump. I don't know. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't and I know that Barack Obama has a certain level of respect in Black politics because of who he is and being the first Black president, which is again interesting because we were so confidently calling this man the first Black president, and then the minute that a Black woman started to run for the presidential seat, everyone started questioning her Black identity. Meanwhile, he suckled on the teat too soon. Too soon? Too soon? That's all I'm saying. I truly believe that it's important for us to call that out. But also, back to Auntie Kamala, she has every right to be tired. It's exhausting. The way that even Black people gave her the business when she was running for that presidential seat was honestly exhausting to watch. It was exhausting to watch. And I feel like it took him forever to even endorse her. And I know people are going to say that it was a political move, but when Auntie Kamala was running for the presidential seat, it took Barack Obama so long to endorse her as the candidate for the Democratic Party. That in and of itself was crazy to me and questionable. And this is after you knew that old man Joe wouldn't get out the way for her to run for the seat. Because Joe could have Joe could have gotten out the way a long time ago. Joe could have gotten out the way eons ago. He knew that he was not capable of running for that presidential seat. And instead he sat there and took up space. And then I can't believe that Barack Obama took so long to endorse her. And I'm not really, and this is what I'm talking about with respectability politics, is that you can't say that you want to undo white supremacy and then play the white man's game. I'm sorry. I get that Barack Obama has played the political game this entire time. That's how he got in the seats of being president in the first place. But you cannot want to undo white supremacy and then play the white man's game. That doesn't work that way, right? And so I get it. And I understand that he played a level of politics and not endorsing her right away, but that did not work. That did not work for him. And I truly believe it's my it's my personal opinion that there are a lot of black people, black folks who worship the ground that Barack Obama walks on. And I'm not saying he did all good. I'm not saying he did all bad. But I do believe that they have this weird God complex with Barack Obama, like he's the savior. And I just don't think that people do enough digging and investing into what, or investigating into what actually happened. That's just what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying that he did all bad. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that I truly believe that people did more digging into Auntie Kamala's background when she was running for a presidential seat than they did for Barack Obama at all. People had blind faith in that man. People had blind faith in Barack Obama. They did not, no one was willing to put that blind faith into Kamala Harris. In fact, the minute that she started to run for the presidential seat, people went to dig up skeletons from ages ago that weren't even true. That weren't even true. They weren't true. There wasn't facts. The only person that was digging up anything during that publicly dug up anything during the Barack Obama election that we can recall was when when Donald Trump questioned whether or not he was qualified to be president because he was saying he wasn't a citizen, which was also blatant racism. But I feel like it was way more of a challenge when Kamala Harris got in the seat. And she's way more qualified than Donald Trump, the person she was running against. So now this man who has however many felony counts, right? And that's just what which he was actually made guilty on, like called guilty on. He has many felony counts, and we know this, and people still elected him to sit in the seat of president versus someone who is well qualified and has been in politics for years and has also been the vice president. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I can understand why Auntie Kamala would be so exhausted and so tired because it really is a shame. And every time I see a clip of her following the presidency, the presidential election, all I can hear is truth is I'm tired, options are few, because y'all are exhausting. Okay? Exhausting. It is exhausting. It is tiring. It is exhausting to have to deal with that. I remember when she was, after the presidential election was over, and she was playing Connect Four with her nieces, drinking a glass of wine, and the internet got a hold of the image of her drinking wine while she was playing Connect Four with her kids, and everybody went crazy. It's like the lady just lost the presidential election, and y'all won't even give her a second. Y'all won't even let her get a moment. It's like everybody was on her body crazy because she was drinking wine. Is that normal? It's like I can't imagine what it's like. And again, I can only imagine from the context of being black in a professional space because as a black person, you're constantly put in a space where people are questioning your credibility. You're constantly being put in a space where people are looking to make you feel like you're not qualified, even if you're more qualified than the people that you are sitting in front of. Like, it is constant. People are constantly making inappropriate jokes to you and at you, even when it's not the right time. For him to sit in front of her and say that she's impacted by the fire and then tell her to fire away is absolutely blatantly and utterly disgusting. And it's like people are still going to worship the ground that Joe Biden walks on. And the truth of the matter is that Joe Biden wasn't the best president. He was not the best president. He was what we knew. He was what we were able to. We had to pick between two evils. he was just a person that was the better of two evils. Because at the end of the day gotta end. And if it's between Joe Biden and Trump, of course people pick Trump. And I think people also knew that Kamala Harris was the better pick, but because she's a woman, they didn't want to pick her because there's not much of a difference. The campaign she actually ran was better than the campaign that Joe ran. And it didn't matter because people were actually upset because she was a woman. You know what I mean? So it's just like weird vibes. Weird vibes. Back to what was important. Auntie Kamala has, I think, done so much in part to try to attempt to win the presidential election, and was met with every single curveball in the world, including Joe Biden not just getting out the way. And so to have to sit in a space and listen to people like Joe Biden make jokes about a pretty serious disaster happening in California. Also, I just want to say that my heart goes out to all the folks in California who have lost their homes and their loved ones. And I want to send all the love in the world out to all of the first responders and firefighters who are putting their lives on the line to help people, because I cannot imagine. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor. Losing your home is something that is a really like I've lived through a fire. I was very young, so I don't remember the whole thing. But losing your home is a really big deal, and so I don't want to downplay that or skip over that. And the fact that the sitting president would make jokes about that to the sitting vice president while doing while doing a press conference about the fire is absolutely disgusting. And what's crazy is she then had to take over and start thanking everyone for all of the work that they did and for their service as she's grieving the loss of her own home. Like it doesn't make sense. And there's this double standard that is placed on black women, women in general, black women, obviously black people, but more specifically black women, to have to fix things or take over when someone else messes it up. And I feel like people have constantly accused Auntie Kamala of not being present in the during the presidency, as though she was the sitting president. What he said was, so for all of you who are catching up, so what happened was they were doing a press conference, and Joe Biden was saying that they were going to talk about the fires that are happening in California. And he looks over at Madam Vice President and says, I know that you've been directly impacted, so I'm going to let you take over. Fire away. No pun intended. Imagine being impacted by a really significant fire that is burning down California. And the president of the United States looks at you while you're grieving whatever it is you're grieving and says, I'm going to let you fire away, no pun intended, making fire jokes. And she's not the only one grieving. You have to remember that this man is talking to the entire United States. The press conference is not just for him and Kamala. It's not like she's the only one that's hearing it. He's speaking to the entire country. And you decided to make a fire away joke and say no pun intended while the rest of the world is watching. And people who are in California are actively grieving. Like, I don't know if y'all have seen social media, but social media has literally been nonstop with people posting their homes, talking about how devastated they are. And him as the president made a joke about firing away. And again, Auntie Kamala, as a black woman, had to then take over, smile and nod, and be present in the space when the sitting president made a joke like that. This is just it. Honestly, I hope that Auntie Kamala, I hope she hears this, or I hope somebody says it to her. But I really hope that she gets a break. I hope that she gets a break. I hope that she's able to grieve whatever she's lost in this fire. I hope that she's able to grieve whatever she's lost through this election. I truly feel like she hasn't had a moment to take a beat. And this is really reflective of what Black people go through in America, but more specifically, Black women. Like, don't get a moment or a beat to breathe. Like, expect it to carry on and continue life as usual. And I can't imagine how hard it is for her to have gone through something like this. And also, this is on the coattail of her going to shake the white man's hand at that conference and him not shaking her hand. Like, I don't think people really understand the plight of a Black woman in America. And I think it's often overlooked because people expect Black women to be strong. And it is because Black women have historically showed up as strong. But I'm sending my love out to Auntie Kamala and all the Black women out there because it really is exhausting. It's exhausting to watch at this point. We've seen her go through it. We've seen her be berated. We've seen her be disrespected. We've seen her be accused of things that are just not true. And she's handled it with so much poise and she's handled it with so much grace. And the truth of the matter is, she shouldn't have had to. She shouldn't have had to. She should have been able to be mad as hell. She should have been able to be to she should have been able to turn tables over, to walk out, to get in spaces and to speak her truth. But the truth is that she's had to hold that all in. I hope that she's seeing a therapist. I hope that there's someone who is caring for her. And my heart goes out to her because at this point it's just exhausting to watch. And I'm tired of seeing her tired. I'm tired of seeing her tired. Y'all, if you Black and you got a Black mama, you've seen the look in a Black mama's face where she's so exhausted because she's carrying the weight of the world. And it's not even like oh, you look crazy, you're tired. It is like, my heart is with you because you are exhausted. You have ran an Olympic race and you haven't gotten a moment to take a breather. And all I'm asking for is that I hope that she gets a moment when this is over. I hope that she can take a break. And I know that she took the high road and she's saying that, we're going to hand over the presidency peacefully and with respect and in the American way. But I you know, I hope that she gets a break. And that's the problem, is that Black people often think that it is normal for people to have to be strong. Trauma impacts the body. And so and the way you think and the way you operate. And all too often, Black people, because we're busy being strong, we're losing sight of our health because we feel like we need to be strong for the world. And so I also just want to say, as Black people, being strong is not always the answer. Sometimes you need to take a break. Being strong has come from historical context when we had to survive. And the only way for us to survive and to keep our families together and to survive in a world that hated us was to be strong. And I really think that we need to take a break from that and take a step back. And also, I think that we need to do some healing for ourselves. And sometimes we need to switch up being strong. And I also want to say, Black men need to step up to the forefront to give Black women a chance to not have to be strong all the time. I understand that Black men also, we don't also want Black men to be tirelessly strong, but we also cannot burn out our Black women from being strong while we step back and take the back seat. And that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying that we as Black people collectively don't deserve a break, because I think we do. But I do think that Black men need to step up a little more in order for Black women to step back. And even in this instance specifically, when we think about the former President Carter funeral, where Obama sat next to Donald Trump and was laughing and kikiing with him, even in those moments, like, we needed Obama to step up throughout that presidential election and not step in when it was late or when it felt convenient. He should have stepped up in the beginning. He should have spoken to his former vice president, Joe Biden, and told him that he needed to step back and allow that Black woman to lead and to step into a space of leadership that she deserved. That's just my personal opinion. But with that in mind, I'm signing off. I love y'all. Thank y'all for coming to my TED Talk. More lives to come. If you don't subscribe to my YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to that YouTube channel. I'll be posting the podcast on there and on Spotify. So if you want to join in on these conversations, Eventually, we will be interviewing Black leaders. The podcast is called Bleadership Podcast by the real Dwight Thomas, where Black culture and Black professionalism meet. I will be having Black leaders on and interviewing them where we'll talk about pop culture and what it's like to be living in a Black professional world and giving out advice. I'm going to ask you all to ask for advice on topics that you want to hear about. So please, please be sure to go tap into Bleadership Podcast on the YouTube channel and on Spotify. More to come. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all next time.